Oregon legislators need to put an end to the outrageous practice of holding a special fundraising event for lobbyists at the beginning of legislative sessions. No wonder the public thinks some politicians are bought and sold on the open market. Lawmakers in both states are considering term limits that would add up to spending no more than 12 years in office. The idea may have some merit, but putting limits on buying one's way into office is more important this time around. I'm Rick Myers for Channel 2.
If you would like to respond to this editorial, write feedback, KATU, Post Office Box 2, Portland, Oregon, 97207.
From ABC News, this is World News Sunday. Here's Carol Simpson.
Good evening. The president's two top military advisors are on their way back to Washington tonight, ready to give Mr. Bush their assessment of the military situation in the Gulf and the advisability of launching a ground war. It was first reported here last night that commanders in the field would like to wait another 30 days before beginning a full-scale ground assault. Defense Secretary Cheney today seemed to endorse that view. We have two reports, beginning with ABC's Bob Zelnick.
The final stop in Saudi Arabia for Cheney and Powell was a southeastern air base, temporary home of the 37th Tactical Fighter Wing. Their plane, the F-117 stealth fighter bomber, is a symbol of the war to date. High-tech, heavy damage to Iraqi targets, no U.S. losses. Also symbolic, a mood of camaraderie, as Staff Sergeant John Pennell, a Bart Simpson lookalike, asked Cheney to deliver a Bart Simpson doll in desert camouflage to President Bush.
I can guarantee you by tomorrow night that'll be on his desk in the Oval Office.
The serious side of tomorrow's visit with the president will be to determine when to launch the ground campaign. In Saudi Arabia, sources say Desert Storm Commander Norman Schwarzkopf wants to rely solely on bombing for another 30 days in order to degrade enemy forces and keep Allied casualties low. In an interview aboard his plane, Cheney agreed that more bombing is needed before the ground war starts.
The process of knocking out tanks, artillery is important. We continue to work at that problem every day that we get additional missions in, get additional aircraft to drop ordnance on those targets. We'll make it that much easier when we have to use ground forces, should it come to that.
Cheney and Powell emphasized that ground operations will stress mobility and coordinated weapons use rather than a frontal assault on Iraqi positions. But they rejected a so-called limited war of probes and feints, insisting on the complete defeat of Iraqi forces.
If they choose to stay and fight it out in Kuwait, they will be defeated. Their only other option is to withdraw.
Cheney and Powell will take plenty of evidence to the president that the Iraqis are hurting in terms of equipment, supplies, and morale. But there's also evidence that they still have the forces to put up a bruising fight. Mr. Bush must decide when enough of that fight has been bombed out of them for the ground war to begin. Bob Zelnick, ABC News, with the Secretary of Defense.
This is David Ensor. A new Soviet diplomatic effort to end the war is underway. Top Gorbachev advisor Yevgeny Primakov, who Soviet television announced today was flying towards Baghdad, has met Saddam Hussein many times before. U.S. officials say they were informed in advance of his mission. Arrangements were made so that he could get to Baghdad without danger from Allied warplanes. On This Week with David Brinkley, President Gorbachev's military advisor said the Soviet leader is offering Saddam Hussein a way to end the war.
He is sending his personal representative to President Saddam Hussein of Iraq with an offer to cease fire in the area.
But President Bush made clear again today, no ceasefire until Saddam Hussein starts withdrawal from Kuwait.
I heard what Saddam Hussein said, and I didn't hear him say anything about getting out of Kuwait.
Secretary of State Baker said he only hopes the Soviets can convince Saddam to obey United Nations orders.
If it can result in full implementation of the UN Security Council resolutions, more power to them. That's, after all, the name of the game here.
In an interview with David Brinkley, Jordan's King Hussein reacted angrily today to word that his pro-Saddam speech on Friday prompted the U.S. to consider cutting off aid.
That our relationship was not based on material considerations. We are facing enormous difficulties. but we are not that cheap.
American officials believe Primakov will be extremely blunt with Saddam Hussein. While they do not expect the Iraqi leader to give in, they say it is not entirely impossible. David Ensor, ABC News, the State Department.
75 Iraqi soldiers have deserted and surrendered to Allied forces in the past 24 hours. That's the highest number of desertions in a single day. Meanwhile, Saddam Hussein took to the airwaves today, praising the Iraqi people for standing up to the forces of evil and for remaining patient and steadfast during bombing by what he called the warplanes of shame. Since the Gulf War began, it's been extremely difficult for Western journalists to get into Iraq and report on the situation there firsthand. But ABC's Bill Blakemore managed to get into Baghdad today.
When we came to the populated areas around Baghdad, the streets were busy in the early afternoon. There was traffic, buses, cars, people on bicycles, crowded sidewalks. I think the people have gotten used to the fact that the bombing runs do not seem to be during the day for the most part, at least in recent days here. The Director General of Information told me when we came into the hotel that the sewage system of this city is now beginning to break down, which he said, along with the lack of running water, threatens a serious public health problem. Of course, I cannot yet get out to confirm any of this myself since we've just arrived, but there's no question about the fact that this is something of a city under siege because there have been bombing runs nightly, and nobody knows where they're going to hit. And in fact, they've been telling us in the few hours since we've been here trying to get our gear stowed and our satellite links up, they've been telling us that there's been bombing every night. In fact, last night there was a rather large hit on a large government building not too far from here, which showered some fragments of shrapnel on this hotel, which now contains houses about 35 journalists from around the world. Bill Blakemore, ABC News in Baghdad.
There was a confrontation near Bethlehem tonight when Palestinians began throwing rocks at Israeli troops, and the troops responded with gunfire, killing one Arab. The incident came on the day when Israel permitted Palestinian workers to leave the occupied territories and go back to work for the first time since the war began. Israel was responding to appeals from humanitarian groups and Jewish employers who are dependent on cheap Arab labor. Brian Rooney is in Tel Aviv.
Israel opened the gates for about 6,000 Palestinians to return to their jobs, but only about 1,500 of them actually went to work before dawn today.
They told us they will come, but nobody came.
More than 100,000 Palestinians have been cut off from their jobs in Israel because the Gaza Strip and the West Bank were put under strict curfew immediately after the start of the Gulf War. The curfew was intended to stop demonstrations of support for Iraqi President Saddam Hussein, but it also put a stop to the Palestinian economy and the Israeli citrus and building industries, which depend upon Palestinian labor. Today's loosening of the curfew provided little relief because so few Palestinians came to the job.
We're hoping that tomorrow and the day afterwards it'll just be a gradual process where people will return to work for the benefit of all.
But already the curfew was slapped back on in a few areas where Arabs demonstrated today. Israel's secondary involvement in the Gulf War has been expensive in missile damage, lost work, and wages. Two senior government ministers are on their way to Washington to ask for more than $3 billion to help defray the cost. Brian Rooney, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
Coming up, the hardest working part of the Allied air campaign, the stealth bomber. And later in this broadcast, old soldiers fighting for the chance to serve again.
World News Sunday, brought to you by Ford Motor Company.
Ford Motor Company. Profiles in quality. Teamwork.
We work good as a team here on a job like this where all four of us can work together. That's what I said in '82. And today, teamwork is more important than ever.
Our paint job is only as good as a primer coat.
My primer coat's only as good as the body prep.
My body prep starts with a quality body panel.
Together, our goal is to build
the highest quality cars and trucks
in the world.
At Ford, quality is job one.
We built this business
to give you vision, style,
built this business
to help entertain you.
We built this business to build your freedom.
ITT We built these businesses into leaders. We built them by taking care of people.
We built this business. We built this business to venture. We built this business.
To the average American, the most visible technological success of the war has been the Patriot missile, streaking into the skies, shooting down Scud missiles. What we haven't seen is the star of the Allied air campaign, the one Defense Secretary Cheney and General Colin Powell stopped to look at earlier today. Here's ABC's Jim Slade.
The F-117 stealth fighter bomber is truly form-following function. Odd flat angles of its fuselage tilted away from adjoining parts scatter radar in all directions rather than reflecting it back to ground receivers. Its engines are buried in the body above the wings to keep them invisible. Its tail planes angle away from each other like a swallow's. The result is an unstable plane that can't fly without a computer.
The computer tells the flight control surfaces how to move, how to make that airplane do what you want it to do.
It has no need for machine guns, but reportedly carries standard defensive missiles for possible air-to-air combat. Like its bombs, they're tucked inside the bulky fuselage to keep from reflecting radar. The weapons pop out like a switchblade knife. It was the F-117 that led the opening attack, using laser-guided weapons that brought success like this. Some of the bombs were so accurate they flew through doors. The Air Force says the stealth fighter cost $42.6 million a copy. There are 27 of them at work in the Persian Gulf right now, with up to 32 more in reserve around the world. So far, there have been no reported losses. Its record has led critics to question if there's need for the Pentagon to buy the long-range stealth bomber, the B-2. Defense Secretary Cheney thinks both are needed.
One lesson that's come through loud and clear out of the Gulf conflict, it is the value of stealth technology.
While the F-117 comprises 5% of the Air Force in the Persian Gulf, it has flown 40% of all its missions. Jim Slade, ABC News, Washington.
They say old soldiers fade away, but there are plenty of veterans around who would like nothing better than to be in the Persian Gulf, actively engaged in the confrontation there. Ray Gandolf has talked to some of them. Ray?
Thank you, Carol. Well, compared with Vietnam, this war has an extraordinarily high level of popular support, certainly for the men fighting it, if not for the war itself. And maybe that's why many of the men who fought the last war and were forgotten are eager to fight again.
This is the Bronze Star Medal, and I received this for combat action again on the 1st of April, 1969.
Jim McKee has 2 combat medals and 2 Purple Hearts from 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. He's 44 now and has tried unsuccessfully to re-enlist in the Marines and go to Saudi Arabia.
It's my duty, and it would be my great honor to serve this country one more time. Hours can go by.
We talked with McKee and 5 other Vietnam-era vets the other night at a Veterans Outreach Center in Massachusetts. Bill Basigalupo was 17 when he was sent to Vietnam. Last summer, he joined the National Guard.
And I just received a letter saying that they're looking for volunteers.
Are you going?
If I can, I'm going. I feel it's my duty to go.
Larry Anderson was a door gunner on a rescue helicopter. He has a son serving in Desert Storm and would like to join him.
Get it done and get it over with. Don't play around, because Saddam Hussein is not playing.
Bob Baldock served 6 post-war years in the Mediterranean. He's young enough to re-enlist, but was turned down because of a service-connected disability.
What I did is I called the Israeli consulate. I volunteered to serve in the Israeli Defense Forces if the ground war extended over to there. I said that if my own government doesn't want me, I will serve under another government that I highly respect.
Mike Mason, who spent 7 years in the Air Force right after the Vietnam War, is just 33 now and has joined a combat unit of the National Guard.
I'd rather see it happen, me going over there right now, than see my kids have to go over there a few years down the road.
Wally Smith spent the war years at a stateside naval base. He, too, has joined the National Guard.
And just re-enlisted again this past November. Passed the physical, have no problems because of my age or otherwise, and would go with no hesitation.
The families of these men are skeptical, but generally supportive.
My wife, I think, from the day I met her, always thought that I wasn't wrapped too tight.
Well, my wife thinks I'm a madman for even thinking about it.
They'd rather know whether I am going or am I not going. But whatever the reason might be, they back me up 100% for whatever I do.
These men, embarking on middle age, want to serve their country again from motives of simple patriotism, because they believe they have skills to offer, and because they remember a war for which they were not praised, but shunned.
We had no one to come home to, our families, and they didn't understand. And there are thousands of us out there, just like us.
Ignored us too long. Took a long time to wake up and realize who we were.
Have we done it yet?
Not yet.
And hopefully that's a mistake that will not be made this time. I'll stake my life on that.
An Army recruiting sergeant in Boston told us that about a third of the inquiries he gets come from Vietnam-era veterans. Carol?
Thanks, Ray. We'll be back in a moment.
Did you know, if your business doesn't use AT&T 800 service, it takes over 35% longer for your customers' calls to connect. The longer your customers wait, the more they may hang up, and that can cost you business. Faster 800 connections, another AT&T advantage.
Who guarantees overnight air delivery before 10:30 to the most people coast to coast? Who did you think?
Bill, you're not even dressed. Put your tie on. Here. What's the matter? Oh, a bad headache. Here. The doctor told me about this. Motrin IB. Same medicine as in prescription Motrin in non-prescription strength. One works as well as 2 regular Tylenol. You know, honey, we're going to have a great time tonight.
Motrin IB, recommended by thousands of doctors.
And your wife.
Who guarantees overnight air delivery before 10:30 to more businesses than anyone else in the business? Who did you think?
Hey, the boots come a long way for one day.
Without a hitch.
That's not what I hear.
What?
At the airport, someone swiped your wallet.
Oh, right.
What about your client dinner tonight? You know, you're sitting on the biggest order of the year.
Is Mr. Moore here? I'm Chris Moore.
I've got you a replacement card in cash from American Express.
Thanks a lot.
How did you do that?
Only one card gives you the privileges of membership. The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
One day after Lithuanians voted overwhelmingly in favor of independence from the Soviet Union, the Lithuanian people are watching and waiting for signs of the Soviet military. Soviet Army officials announced they would begin 10 days of military maneuvers in the 3 Baltic republics today. What the Soviet people may learn about events in the Baltic states is in question tonight. That's because Mikhail Gorbachev has issued a new decree which may reverse some of the openness of the era of glasnost. Here's ABC's Jim Laurie.
It was one of Gorbachev's biggest achievements, glasnost with freer press and broadcasting. But many liberals wonder if press freedom will survive much longer.
It's only the beginning. Pressure on the mass media is increasing. Only those who support the official view will be acceptable. And the official view is that of the old Communist Party apparatus.
To strengthen control over radio and television, this weekend Gorbachev issued a decree setting up a new state corporation for broadcasting under this man, Leonid Kravchenko. Kravchenko, who has headed the old state broadcast committee for several months, has already censored reports on Latvia and Lithuania to promote the Kremlin line. Angry TV producers broadcast empty chairs when Kravchenko ordered the popular investigative program Vzglad or Viewpoint off the air.
Our program feels it has been taken off the air for political reasons.
Vzglad was about to air a look at the resignation of Foreign Minister Shevardnadze. Now it appears Kravchenko is turning on, at Gorbachev's urging, the popular Russian leader Boris Yeltsin. Last week, Yeltsin was refused airtime on the main TV channel. and the Kremlin has shut down the major frequencies of the popular and liberal Radio Russia, reducing its audience by 60%. Come spring, liberals here had hoped to have a new independent TV channel. But with Gorbachev exerting tighter control of the airwaves, those plans are now very much in doubt. Jim Laurie, ABC News, Moscow.
When we return, why archaeologists are anguished over the bombing of Iraq.
We built this business
to help you relax and unwind.
Built this business
to bring water to your home.
We built this business to build your life.
IBT built these businesses into leaders. We built them by taking care of people.
We built this business. We built this business to build your life.
Flu rages across the U.S. Now in 46 states. What will you do? Doctors recommend Theraflu, hot liquid medicine that works fast. Theraflu, strong therapy for flu symptoms.
LensCrafters made me these wonderful top-quality glasses and got me back on track in about an hour.
LensCrafters puts the whole lab right in the stores. Custom craft your top-quality glasses in about an hour. Call LensCrafters at 1-800-522-LENS.
This is what healthy gums look like. Your bleeding gums look like this.
But they only bleed occasionally.
It's a bacterial infection. Untreated, it could spread deeper.
Oh, no.
Don't worry. We can stop bleeding gums. First, we'll clean your teeth. Then, at home, as part of daily home care, I can give you medicine.
My gums stop bleeding.
Ask your dentist about the home care treatment for bleeding gums. Oral Health Pharmaceuticals from Procter & Gamble.
Take a look around me at a place like none on land. Sail away now, you'll find me. The world's at my command.
Of all the resorts in the world, one takes you to the great places of the world. Royal Caribbean, the grand resorts of the seven seas. Isn't it time you discovered them?
Among scholars, Iraq is regarded as the richest country in the world in terms of archaeological remains. Some scholars are demanding that the U.S. government stop the war, not because they think it's unjust, but because they're afraid the very cradle of civilization will be destroyed. Here's ABC's Bob Jamieson.
The excavation of ancient Babylon, until Rome, the world's most important city, is only one of 500,000 archaeological sites in Iraq that has scholars worried Allied bombing will destroy important windows on our history. Much of modern Iraq was Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, known as the cradle of civilization. There, man first began to read and write. Archaeological sites are rich in artifacts, like these at the University of Pennsylvania Museum, which tell scholars how man took the steps from village culture to high civilization, beginning in 4000 BC.
There are mounds everywhere in Iraq. You can stand on one mound and count 100 around you. And these are remains of cities from antiquity.
Sites which have yielded some of the most important artifacts telling of the spread of civilization are close to military targets. One is the Iraq Museum in Baghdad. And some Islamic holy sites are also important to scholars of all religions. Some scholars have complained U.S. officials ignored their warnings about archaeological sites before the war. The U.S. commander says his pilots have used tactics that sometimes put them at risk to make certain they are hitting military targets.
But we have deliberately decided to do this in order to avoid unnecessary civilian casualties, in order to avoid destroying these religious shrines and that sort of thing.
But archaeologists say even slight damage will deny modern man understanding of his past.
If you blow away a piece of a mound, then whatever was in it no longer has any archaeological context, and we can't get knowledge from it.
No matter the eventual outcome of the fighting, scholars say, any damage to Iraq's archaeological sites will mean a loss for people on both sides of the war. Bob Jamieson, ABC News, Philadelphia.
When we come back, love letters to the troops in the Gulf.
I'll never get through tomorrow if I don't get some Z's.
Introducing single-dose maximum strength Nitol. Just one will help you fall fast asleep fast. New maximum strength Nitol. Just one Nitol will help you get a lot of Z's.
What's different about Polident? Refreshing mint. There's a minty mouthwash ingredient in every tablet. Other cleansers may get dentures clean, but Polident gets the minty clean. Super strength, super minty, Polident.
Did you know if you're not using the AT&T network, your company waits over 40% longer for long-distance calls to connect?
I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour when there's no one else around. I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour.
With AT&T, in 1 year, you may end up paying people thousands of dollars to wait.
I'm gonna wait till the
Faster connections, another AT&T advantage.
Some of the biggest names in entertainment and sports got together in a California studio today to record a song and video in support of U.S. troops in the Persian Gulf. The All-Star Choir's effort is called Voices That Care. Money raised by the record and video will go to the American Red Cross Gulf Crisis Fund and to the USO. Some not-so-big names are sending messages of support as well. As ABC's John Quinones reports, they're small folks from a small town with very big hearts.
Dear Wesley, how is the Middle East? It's pretty cool up here, but we all pray for the men and the women in the Gulf. Are you pretty scared about the whole war? Oh boy, I am.
The dead of winter in the Rocky Mountains of western Colorado and at Eagle Valley Elementary, warm hearts are melting away the bitter frost.
Roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you.
They've been cutting, pasting, and writing for several days now.
Are you running out of supplies? I'm glad that you took the risk of saving people's lives.
The children of Eagle, Colorado, population 1,500, a town named after America's national symbol. You can hardly turn a corner in Eagle without running into a little patriotic reminder.
Eagle, to me, is a symbol of freedom. That's what we're there in Saudi for.
The town of Eagle is nestled right in the heart of ski country, Colorado. It's about as far removed from the desert war as one can get. Still, this is no fantasy land, for even Eagle, Colorado now has at least a dozen sons and daughters fighting in the Gulf.
Soldiers like Derek Gress, who's been writing to these second graders since last October.
What do you want for these soldiers?
For them to come home soon and for them to get this war over with.
This weekend, the people of Eagle gathered on Main Street for one big Valentine that will be hand-delivered to the troops, along with a recording of a special Valentine's Day song.
Don't be sad, don't be down, 'cause we're thinking of you in our town.
John Quinones, ABC News, Eagle, Colorado.
ABC News will continue to monitor events in the Gulf War 24 hours a day, bringing you news updates every hour and special coverage as events warrant. That's our report for tonight. Jack Smith will have more news later on the Weekend Report. I'm Carol Simpson. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
A presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
A blockbuster movie for the kid, you know.
I want to spend the night with you.
Do you mean sleep over?
Yeah.
Okay.